Yeah, that didn't sound so great, huh? This was an excerpt of tERRORbane, a game developed by the Italian indie devs of BitNine Studio. And it's full of errors. Why do we need such a game when there are enough buggy and glitchy games out there? Well, let's check the story behind this. The story writer of the BitNine team, Andrea Leoni, did not only tell me their intentions, but also if players are actually having fun playing a broken game. Also find out why their studio switched from mobile to other platforms and what the gaming industry is like in Italy. Now on Open Indie. Andrea, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you, fine.
Your new game, tERRORbane, is like, well, I try to describe it. It's like this crazy JRPG pixel adventure. It's fourth wall breaking, and the full release was on the 1st of April this year, 2022. The 1st of April, that release date, that was probably intentionally, right?
Yeah, it was. It started out as a joke. Like, we went ahead and said, what would happen if we released our game on the 1st of April? And it was a joke at the beginning, but then the publisher, Whisper Games, came to us and said, wait, this is actually a good idea. Let's do it. And we went with it. It was fun. It was fun to play with the date.
Yeah, but I think it was a pretty cool idea too. But you gave me as a reviewer a hard time. I had to tell all these editorial offices I work for that the release date was no April Fool's joke. This is really the release date.
Yeah, even some players were kind of taken aback by it. But, you know, you will learn soon that we at BitNine Studio just love making jokes, even if they work against us. And it was stronger than us. So we went with it, just free of consequences, I guess.
Very cool idea. Yeah, already when I played the demo of tERRORbane, like I think about a year ago, I had to laugh so hard and I really enjoyed playing it. Although your game is full of bugs and glitches, but it's intentionally. So you're supposed to think you're playing a normal JRPG in the style of the old Final Fantasy games. I really love that, by the way. But every time I thought I had to play the game like traditional Final Fantasy, it always went the other direction. So nothing goes as planned. Gameplay mechanics suddenly change. At one time, I wanted to open a door and suddenly I could pick it up and put it in my inventory. Aren't there enough games with bugs on the market?
Well, yes, you know, I don't want to sound like I made this glitchy game because I want to say that games are glitchy or I want to, I want to point the blame on someone in the industry. Rather, I wanted to make this game because I simply enjoyed the idea of something breaking while you were playing it. I felt like bugs have this inherent comedic value to them. And the idea was to try and harness it to make a game that would make people laugh. And yes, the industry is full of their inevitable glitches, and some of them less inevitable than others. But, most of these things get to become beloved by the community in some way or other. Think about Skyrim. Think about the disastrous launch of Assassin's Creed. Was it Unity, the one in France? It kind of became a meme to be enjoyed by everyone. And I thought I wanted to harness this power, this meme power.
How difficult was it to develop a game with intentional bugs?
Way more than we anticipated. We started out with the simple idea of, let's make a game about bugs. Let's make a game where nothing works. But, the core tenet of game design is to teach your player how to play a game and while they play it. Hopefully without a tutorial, hopefully by showing them how to do it. And so we set out to do just that, and we figured out that it wasn't easy because our intention from the start was to break the gameplay, not to have it work as intended. So we couldn't base our design on what you already knew. Well, we could, but only on reflex, only on it being mirrored into something twisted. So it was difficult to find ways to not only entertain the player at every turn, but also teach them how to use the systems that were broken on purpose. It was a challenge that pushed our development time a bit away from what we expected it would take us to complete the game.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's also what I wanted to ask, like how difficult it is to teach the player gameplay mechanics which change all the time and aren't the usual.
Yeah, it's a challenge. What we devised was a kind of a reinventing the wheel solution each time we changed the rules. We went about changing the gameplay, changing the setting, and each time we had to explain new stuff, and each time we did it differently, basically. There is a place where you change setting and you change the entire combat system. So we kind of created a tutorial section where you go through these mini games that will become your way to fight in the future, and you were forced through three mini games that we thought were the easier ones, but we combined them to make them more difficult, and we force you to go through this funny section, and that was one solution for that problem. In other times, we simply leave you to your mistakes to teach you the correct way of proceeding. For example, the starting scrolls, which usually players are more familiar with because they are the start of the game. The only way to progress is to experiment and fail. Well, fail. There's no real way to fail, but the only way is to skip that scroll to learn how the game will work. And it was quite challenging. It took a lot of repetition, reiteration, and a lot of feedback from the players.
In the beginning of the game, there's this long story intro with a really long text scroll, scrolling down, and seems like it never ends. And, well, gamers aren't as patient always, so as you might know.
It's fine. They shouldn't be. I want to say this because it seems like I want to make a point with the scrolls, but I'll let you go on. Then I.
Okay. Well, yeah, so after a few seconds, there's like this pop-up telling the player which button to push to skip this scene. And in my first playthrough, I didn't push it. I was tempted, but I didn't because I wanted to see what happens if I let it. Yeah, it was amazing, but it was hard. So the scroll ended at some point, and I moved on to the next part of the game. But I immediately went back and started a new save game, and this time skipped the intro. And yeah, suddenly a bug appeared and forced me into a mini game to get everything working again. So something totally different happened, and I wasn't expecting this. So this was really a cool feature.
The scrolls teach you the very basic mechanic of tERRORbane, that your choices just bring you to very different paths that take you through story beats that you might never see if you don't make that choice. And so I'll complete that thought that I left kind of in the middle. It sounds like I want to make a point with this, with these scrolls. Like I want to say gamers are impatient, or I want to say developers are impatient. No, that's not my objective here. The objective of BitNine Studio is having you pass through the craziest and funniest stuff we could think about. And so the joke is the king here, not really the message or the point.
I see. Okay. But also, how much story and game variations are there in tERRORbane?
This is something I want to make clear because I think we kind of hidden the way the game is structured a bit too much. So I want to say it clearly here. There are 12 playable levels in tERRORbane, each around the same length. And as you pass through the game, you make choices that make you pass through 4 of these. So the entire gameplay of one run is just a third of the game, basically. Um, so I want to encourage players to not stop there at the what we call the fake ending, which is the ending you get after 2 hours of playtime, 2 or 3 hours of playtime. It's basically thought up as fake, as unsatisfying, because the developer clearly tells you this is not the end. The game is much thicker than it is long. And, one thing I forgot to mention, the inspiration for this game, much more than a Final Fantasy, much more than any JRPG out there, which is just a pretext, is Stanley Parable. So the structure of the game reflects that replayability without seeing the same things twice. And so, yeah, that is the true structure of the game.
Was that a challenge for you guys?
I hope it is. No, I hope it is for who is listening to us. But yeah, it was a challenge for us in designing it. We kind of went with what we felt was the normal structure of a Stanley Parable-like game. But now I kind of think back, and maybe our game would have been better paced and better to and easier to understand for players if we had put it on a straight line. And I am thinking about something that many players associate with tERRORbane, another game that many players associate with us, which is There Is No Game, Wrong Dimension. And I think the comparison is pretty strong, although I didn't play Wrong Dimension, not even, well, I didn't play the original There Is No Game, the mobile one. Even back then, when I was thinking this game, I was only thinking of the Stanley Parable. But there are a few interesting comparisons. I think it's normal to associate these two titles. Mm, but I feel like I should have probably put the structure a bit more in a line, like the developer from There Is No Game did.
Why did you get that feeling that you needed to put it in a straight line? Did you get some player feedback? Like some players got confused?
Yeah, players are confused by the structure, at least for now. We're planning to support the game. We're planning to see what the feedback is and work on it. But yeah, some players just end the game after the first run. And this is not intended. This is not the way I was envisioning the game's loop. Because I purposely made the normal fake ending unsatisfying. And so if people end up their run there is no growth in the story, there is no satisfying end. And so I wasn't anticipating this. But I think players should play however they like. And so we will adapt to them, I guess. It's our job to do so. Um, there is one thing I want to mention. I said that the jokes are king, but they truly are. That's our main goal. But there is a story to tERRORbane. It's just a very meta story that you cannot see by playing the game once.
I also had the feeling that if I go back and play again and choose maybe something different story-wise, then I could just complete the game 100%, like because of collectibles and stuff like that. So I didn't think that there really is then that the story continues, kind of. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, we with tERRORbane, we tried to come up with something that was completely new. Our intention was to build something that was not seen before. So we went with this strange setup for the story. The story is about a player playing tERRORbane. And so the game is built around the loop of you playing tERRORbane. It's kind of a Schrodinger's box. And you are trapped inside this game, well, enjoying yourself, hopefully. But and you only and the ending of the game, tERRORbane, without the error part highlighted, to those who are listening to us, our title, tERRORbane, is the title of the game. But the developer inside it calls his game tERRORbane without the error highlighted. So there is a game within a game that you are playing. And so the game tERRORbane, without the error highlighted, ends, and it's not the point of the game tERRORbane. So the ending is unsatisfying because the game tERRORbane is unsatisfying, but the game tERRORbane that you are playing is you against the developer, playing his game, finding the faults in his creation. And so, yeah, I encourage everyone who has played the game only once to just go back and choose differently, because you'll find that the story will not play out the same, and you'll see different characters. You will find different quests. You will not change just a few dialogues or a few bugs to complete your bug list. You'll find new story, and just like Stanley Parable.
tERRORbane, it breaks the fourth wall. Like in regular intervals, there's a pop-up text field and a picture of a developer who is directly addressing the player whenever a bug occurs. And he then tries to fix it. He's screaming around, pounding on the keyboard. That developer is you, right?
Oh, all right. Another disclaimer. This call is starting to become full of disclaimers. The developer is voiced by me and written by me. But please do not associate me with him. He's a very irritating character. I wrote him like that on purpose. He is supposed to be your nemesis. He's supposed to be your companion for all of this journey. He is very integral to the story behind tERRORbane, but he's your nemesis. He's supposed to be grating on the nerves and funny. So yeah, he doesn't speak for BitNine Studio. He is a character that we wrote. And once again, there is no point about developers, about players, except at the ending of the game.
In one of our earlier interviews with you, you also told me that the body of the developer, that's your brother or your cousin?
My brother, yes. See, it's kind of composite, yes. The body of the developer is my brother's, the voice is me, and the personality is a combination of all of our experiences with developers or ourselves. We tried to picture the developer as a sort of super developer containing all possible flaws, all possible great things about a developer.
You already told us a little bit about the story in tERRORbane. What exactly inspired you to write that kind of story?
My experiences as a player. In this, I've talked as the voice of BitNine Studio for now, but in this question, I talk as a voice of myself, because I am the writer of the game and the story was my department, kind of. And the guys at BitNine left me complete freedom to explore something that I wanted to say. We started out with this idea that the story would be completely optional. But I also think it's what makes tERRORbane slightly more profound than you first anticipate when you get in contact with the game for the first time. And so I encourage everyone to find it. The story of tERRORbane was inspired by my experiences as a player. I've been an avid player. Avid doesn't describe it. I literally have a wall of DVD covers in front of my screen right now. It represents my entire life, and I love this media to a fault. To the point that when Elden Ring came out and my game was just about to release, I played it every day in my spare time at night, sacrificing my sleep time because I couldn't let up.
Yeah, I can relate.
So yes, I'm sure I'm not the only one. What I wanted to stress what I wanted to stress was that I've developed this kind of encyclopedic knowledge of all AAA and AA titles over the history of video games, and I kind of developed my own idea of what makes a game special. And through tERRORbane, I wanted to tell the story of what I think makes games in particular, not movies, not books, not pictures, special. Uh, and I hope I was able to convey it through the true ending of the game. And many, for instance, ask me, why did I put this grating crazy character that is the developer inside the game? And the only answer is, it's part of a message. It's part of a reflection on what the gaming media is. And hopefully you, when you finish the game, uh, you will enjoy it too.
Well, I'm really, really excited about the true ending of the game now. So.
You don't need to complete the game 100% to find it. It's just a percent.
Okay. I'm excited to see that. So I have to put Elden Ring aside.
No, don't. It's a great game. It's a wonderful game.
Like tERRORbane, I have to say. It's really something special.
We don't deserve that much praise. We try.
Also, I think you said earlier, before, like in an earlier interview we did, that it took you 6 years to finish tERRORbane. Why did it take that long?
As I said, part of the problem was reinventing the wheel each time we changed the gameplay, and we changed gameplay a lot of times. It was also because we didn't want to create a short game. And I'm kind of sad to see that many people just leave the game after the first run and tell us that it's short, even if we took all that long years to make it, long. Well, long for indie titles. The entire playtime of the players that have completed the game to the true ending, so not 100%, but the true ending is usually more than 12 or 15 hours long. So I'd like to say that there is that much content in the game, and we put that much content in the game because we wanted it to be an experience. In the end, we probably should have, I don't know, tERRORbane was really the result of doing the game we wanted to make, not really thinking about what market it would hit, what kind of audience it would resonate with. We just wanted to make a game that worked, that was well made, and that was ours. And that is crazy. And that is not the usual way how you make games. But we did it all the same.
I've heard that there's also some kind of hidden level or secret ending to the game, or is it that final ending you talked about?
The true ending.
That's a true ending. Okay.
Basically, it works like this. You play the game, replay the game, and you could start to complete a map of how the game is made. When you've visited every level and found a percentage of the bugs corresponding to an objective you have for each area, then you unlock an ending that is a level onto itself. So it is another full level that you get to play. And it's placed outside of the cycle, outside of the game. And I think that's what makes it interesting. And that is the true ending of the game. At the end, you make a choice, and your choice is final, and that is the ending of tERRORbane.
Okay. Are actually all the bugs in the game bugs you guys encountered in other games?
No. Some of them are. Some of them are famous bugs. For instance, I remember putting in the scrolls, the third scroll, if you skip it 2 times, you get a mini game and you play a kind of Dance Revolution kind of rhythm game to unwind it. And if you press, the developer asks you to press up to unwind the scroll at the beginning, and if you press another button, like for instance left, you go into another scroll. And this scroll is full of English mistakes. from famous games from the 80s, like the famous Bimmy in what was it? It was uh famous misspellings of names and famous misspellings like congratulations from old Japanese games. And I compiled a giant list of the most interesting and most famous, and I tried to create a text that used them all. So we enjoyed making this game so much. So yeah, some of them are famous. Some of them are just things that happen to us during development. And most of them are invented. Most of them are designed. It's strange. It's a strange experience to design something to be broken. And to think that you need to make it work because it must not break further. So it's strange, but it was also kind of intoxicating. As a designer, it was very much stimulating.
Is that the bug in the scroll? Is it also your favorite bug in the game?
My favorite bug, I think, is one of the most hidden, or a bug that I would describe as diabolical, because it is a well, there's a fight. There's a fight, a classic JRPG fight. It doesn't work. But you have your commands like fight, items, run, and it's a fight where you use limit breaks in true Final Fantasy fashion. There's a limit break. So you need to use these limit breaks to hit the boss and proceed. All of these limit breaks break in some way, so you need to fix them. But that's besides the point. If you charge up your meter and finally get to the limit break on your main character, so tERRORbane, your fight command becomes limit break, but your run command also becomes a limit break. And if you select run X, run limit break, your fight is interrupted, the game is shut down, the computer is shut down, and it leaves you with the orange writing on the screen like old 95, 98 versions of Windows. You can now shut down your system.
Oh, that's crazy. So literally my actual computer shuts down?
No, it's just visually represented. We didn't want to shut your entire computer down. I kind of proposed that, but I was blocked by my teammates. But I just love the absurdity of it all, and I hope players enjoy it too.
I didn't get that one, so I gotta look out for that. Okay.
It forces you to go from the beginning of the fight. So only do it if you want to see the scene.
Okay, I'll do that. I think I know what fight you mean. I go back there. I'm asking this because many indies choose early access for their games, but tERRORbane did get a full release right away, right?
With the danger of overstepping my bounds, I'd like to say that tERRORbane's release was incredibly bugless. The team at Whisper Games did a very good job, and we ourselves did a very good job at testing the game. And the only bugs that we encountered at release were resolved in a manner of a couple of days. So I think this kind of game was right as a premium release, rather than an early access, because it's kind of it is a finished game. It's not a game you can play ad infinitum, and so we thought that releasing was the way to go. Creating the biggest blast we could. We have nothing against early access, to be honest. I think it is a good way to create and market those kind of games that can be expanded upon, that are unfinishable. And And so, yes, maybe one day I'd like to create an early access title and just develop it from there. But tERROrbane had to tell a story.
It probably really doesn't make sense if you have a story-related game to put that in early access, right? Because it's finished.
It makes sense if you fear to have a lot of bugs as a testing ground. We were very thorough. I think we delivered a very stable game. I hope tomorrow doesn't come and they find there's 10 bugs we overlooked for a month or so. But no, at this point I feel pretty confident that the game works and was right for a premium release.
So, talking about your studio, you founded BitNine Studio with your brother and cousin, right?
Yep. It's a family business.
How did you come up with the idea to found a game studio?
As I've said, I was always a very avid player. And so video games were a part of my dreams growing up. I think I always envisioned myself doing something related to video games in some way. But I actually wasn't in the original formation for the informal team that was named BitNine Studio and then later became the company. Because actually, my brother and my cousin started out, and I wasn't part of the team. They came together because my cousin was at university, was studying to get his degree, and he wanted to create little games for mobile platforms. And he called on to my brother, who has always been an illustrator and how to say this in English. He's a marketing expert. He works as a graphic designer for firms, and he makes. He was very good at creating flashy UI and flashy characters because he's also an illustrator. And so the two, programmer and graphic designer, were able to create small games without story or text. And so they created their first kind of programs. They were games, but they were free, so no commercial products were released at that time. And so no publishers were involved, no marketing plans, no all of the things that go around a true game project weren't there. They just made games and put them on the store for free. And the first one they made is Landed. It's still there. Looking at it now, it contains glaring mistakes. But it's always like that. Looking back to your first projects is always difficult, you know. And but it was a free game. It was a challenging kind of cartoonish, funny game. It contained you had to land a space lander kind of spaceship on certain platforms, and the levels were designed to be difficult with environmental challenges, for example, strong winds or meteorites and things like that. It was colorful, contained much of the DNA of the graphic, and kind of also the funny stuff. When you died, there was always a funny message that would appear randomly that made fun of you. So it contained much of the DNA of what tERROrbane would become. But it was just a trial. Then Luca, our programmer, and my cousin came up with the idea of something a bit more structured, a bit more serious. They wanted to make a game for PC and console platforms. And they came up with the idea of basing it on bugs and glitches. And it wasn't called tERROrbane at the time. It was just the bug game. And they called onto me because I've always been a writer. I was at university at the time. My university was actually completely different. I worked as a translator and interpreter. That is why my English is at this level. And so they called on to me because I was a writer, fledgling, and in many ways I still am. And they called me in to create a story, a setting, characters for this thing, because it was going to be text based, and we needed dialogues. And that's where I came up with the whole idea behind tERRORbane. And oh, the name was Matteo's thought process. So I just want to give credit where it's due. tERRORbane.
Are you guys then thinking about releasing tERRORbane maybe sometime for mobile platforms? Of course, you did mobile before.
We entertain the idea. I think we would like to do it, but if it makes sense, that is another very important question. I think Whisper Games also would like to do it, but at the moment there are no plans to port it. So we'll see in the future. We're certainly open to it, and we think it could work. But there are a lot of things we need to think about because it couldn't work with the current structure of the game.
I know 8-bit, I know 16-bit, but your name is BitNine Studio. Why?
The name actually has a meaning to us. We chose this name, as we do, by thinking up what was the meaning behind it. To us, our team is looking to bring something new, something undiscovered in the gaming media, if possible, if we are able. And to remind ourselves of this purpose that enabled us to start doing this job, we chose this name, the 9th bit, the one that comes after the 8th. So we wanted to add a little bit something to the market if we can.
Indie studios, they're always looking for support, of course. Some really need that. Who's all backing you at the moment?
We need to give a huge praise to our friends at Whisper Games. Most of the development of tERRORbane was done completely free. I'm saying like 5 years of that 6-year development was done completely on our expenses, without funding, without backing, only on the exorbitant amount of praise we received for the demo. We were overjoyed by the reaction we had here in Italy, especially people that would enjoy the game at conventions. And so we put our utmost, our free time, our nights, our Saturdays, our Sundays into completing this game. And in the end, all of this time we were searching for a partner that would fund us, that would help us deliver the game, and we had no luck. We tried so many companies, but tERRORbane was and is kind of a unique thing, and it took a special kind of publisher to notice its worth. And so we met the guys at Whisper Games. I have only praise to say about them. They're from China, but they are very knowledgeable on the market, on the Steam market, on Western games, and so they loved the game. They approached us themselves because we did not approach them first, and it has been a happy relationship ever since. I'd like to say.
How's the situation generally in Italy for indies?
I'd like to say that it's wonderful if we're talking about the community.
Okay.
Because Italian developers know how to make a cohesive front. I think the most beautiful part of developing in Italy is that people are open, are friendly, and they never undermine each other. They always help each other. We've had tremendous help from other developer teams who welcomed us. We were just noobs. We were just coming from nowhere. They welcomed us, helped with gaining knowledge about Steam, about the platforms, about how to sell a game, how to present a game, how to pitch a game. All of this we asked to our seniors, and they provided. which is not that common, I think, in other markets. I don't know. I don't know. I don't live outside of Italy, of course. I think the only thing that's missing from Italy, which is still a hotpot for new games, new development teams, and new ideas, is of structure, is an infrastructure of investment and of know-how. Unfortunately, Italy's first concern is tourism and fashion and many of the things that make us Italy. But there's not much knowledge about video games and how about the market and about how to invest in this market. And so there is no support. There is no, well, no. I don't want to sound absolute. Of course, there is support, but it's smaller compared to the larger Europe. And it's fairly less organized and fairly less directed. Um, Great strides have been taken and in recent years, and we hope to change the situation shortly. But as of now, it's still a struggle to emerge and to have the instruments that in other countries are given uh, well, are a given. I'd say one glaring problem is that creating a company in our country is very tax heavy. While, for example, in Great Britain, opening a new company costs you nothing, absolutely nothing, unless you have some form of mm, well, you get some money from your games. In Italy, you start paying from day one, and you start paying heavily for it.
You definitely need money before starting a gaming company.
Yeah, you definitely need money, and you definitely need funding, and it's not that easy. So you can't just create a small game, and put it out there because it's illegal. You need to start a company. You need to start even an individual company, but even that is costly. And so, yeah, we're lacking infrastructure yet.
Is there at least some funding programs, also maybe especially for indies?
During the COVID pandemic, the government took notice of the great volume that the gaming media has managed to accrue during the pandemic. And so they begrudgingly gave us a bit of funding, but it's still very little, especially compared to what they give to other arts. This is mainly due to the fact that the gaming media has not produced yet a big hit in Italy, and hopefully we can overcome this step. We can overcome this situation and show that Italian devs know what they're doing.
Just a few questions about you. Since when are you actually a story writer?
Since I think well, as soon as I got out of school, I started writing projects. I started up by making a comic with my brother as an illustrator, and it went fairly well as locally, of course. I tried to find the media that would welcome my storytelling, and I felt uncomfortable both with comic books and with books in general, because I didn't have the experience I have in the gaming world, and probably the things I wanted to say were not as interesting as the things I have to say about the gaming media. Maybe this is my current thought. It might change. So yes, I started right outside the gates of school, and I continued until here by doing whatever I thought could work. tERRORbane is the first thing that actually I consider a complete project. I also tried to take that book and make it into a podcast. So I kept on trying to experiment on stuff, and try to find my way.
Just a quick question. What was the book about?
The book was actually inspired by my crippling anime addiction. No,
Okay.
it was another reflection on tropes in anime. I created a book. It was a fantasy book, and the premise of the story was there was this guy who would tell uh, fantastical stories of heroes and legends and dragons, and then he grew up and he became a normal guy, a normal man working in a tavern. And basically there are a lot of people that he met during his life. He told them about all of these legends, and they followed these legends and they became legends, like an epic knight, an epic wizard, and they all come back to him and expect him to be this special kind of guy that has become even better than they are, and he's just a tavern guy. And it's a comedic kind of story, and it's a reflection on what it means to have friends and to have a family. And it uses the pretext of high fantasy and crazy action, but in the end, it comes back to a message about relationships.
Can you still read it somewhere online?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, sure. If it's all right with you, then we might post a link for people to look at it and read it.
It's there for people to read.
You were probably a gamer back then.
Oh, yes, I've always been.
So then moving on into the gaming industry was the logical step for you to take.
I wrote the book and the comic book while I was working on tERRORbane because it took that long. And all the while I was trying to find ways to make my writing work even outside of video games. But I think tERRORbane has always been my main project because I also think that it's the most complete, the most the best one I wrote. The developer character grew from just an embryo into this whole thing. For instance, the developer was mute. He didn't speak and he wasn't supposed to speak or have a voiceover in the finished product.
I remember that in the demo, it was without the voiceover, right?
Yeah. For 5 years of development, the game was with a mute developer. Then Whisper Games came along and said, wait, we need to have at least some voiceover. The developer should have a voice. And I said, yeah, but who? And they said, oh, we can provide you a studio. We can find you an actor. And we said, listen, we have like a year of work ahead of us, full to the brim. We are not going to be able to also converse with some outsiders and think about how to put this in the game. It's going to be too difficult. Okay. And why don't you do it? Wait. and I did. It wasn't my suggestion. It was Whisper Games' suggestion. But I created a proof of concept. Everybody listened to it and they said, yeah, it works. Let's do it.
What would you say worked so far pretty good in your life as a story writer or in the gaming industry, and what didn't?
This is a tough question. I think I can, and as a writer, I think I have something to say. This works. Everybody who has finished tERRORbane and gone to the true ending said they were touched by it. I think this is what I can do best. Create a story that gives you the meaning behind the ending. Create a game that uses the meaning of the game and makes it trickle into its gameplay. I think that I can do. What I cannot do, what I always struggle with, is the structure, is the pacing. I always create stories that pay off at the end. And so sometimes I think I infuse my projects with too much difficulty, with too much player work or reader work to get to the good part. I tried my best to make the beginning of everything I write explosive and interesting. But maybe I struggle at the middle.
What moment in your life in the games industry or as a story writer will you always remember?
I guess I can only speak about my personal experiences. I've always been a nerd. I've always been very attached to video games. I think the most incredible moments for video games in my life are things like staying awake at 4 or 5 a.m. at night to watch E3 on summer nights. It is going to a convention for the first time and having all those people meme about my game. You know, they are very personal moments, but they are what propels me to seek a way to make my career work in gaming, because they are profound moments for me. They are things that give my life a bit more meaning. And yeah, I think I want to pursue this.
From your experience so far, do you have any advice for other indie devs or story writers, maybe people who want to just start in the industry and starting a new job in that direction?
I don't want to sound pretentious when I answer this kind of question. I still am in many ways a fledgling developer. But I made a game, I published a game, I sold a game. So to those who are not yet at my step, I can only say it's going to be exactly as you envision it. So exactly as fun as you think it is, as great as you think it is, but it's also going to be incredibly difficult. You're going to have to grit your teeth through so many stupid, humiliating, or angering stuff. And it's all part of becoming not only a better developer, but a better person in full. Things never work perfectly. So this, nothing like making a game, like making any piece of art, tells you exactly what it feels for things not to be as perfect as you envisioned. But that does not mean that it doesn't work. That does not mean that you cannot make it a success or something that you can improve or that you can work upon. Yeah, brace for impact.
To sum up, tERRORbane, your crazy JRPG pixel adventure and fourth wall breaking, had a release on the 1st of April this year, 2022. In general, would you say you're happy how it turned out?
To be honest, yes. One thing I did not mention in this call was, the reviews for the game are pretty good. We got an incredible Metacritic score for our first game ever released, and I'm very happy. Players are still a bit confused about the game. They don't know what to make of it, but we aim to change that and to show them that there's content here.
What will the next project be like?
Oh, we're working on some prototypes, but it's still very early to discuss this. But there will be a next project, of course, and we're already working on it.
Okay, but you can't tell us in what direction it will.
Got like 5 ideas, and we need to find the one that's right for us.
Okay. Well, then keep us updated. Andrea, thanks so much for taking the time for this interview, and it was so nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the time, and yeah, it was also nice to discuss this with you.